Hello. Buenas noches, buenas tardes, buenos dias. Depends on where you are in the world right now. I am back home in Mexico City. I missed hanging out with you guys last week, but so glad you're joining me today. Um, I'll give folks a minute or two, not a minute or two, a second or two to join the live, and then we will get started. For those of you that are here live, um, thanks for joining me. Say hello in the chat. That way I know y'all can actually hear me, and then we'll get started. Hey, y'all. Okay. All right. So, um, I, okay. All right, so I wasn't here last week because I was in the US on grandma duty, and I was hanging out with my grandkids for the week while my daughter went out of town. And that got me to thinking about, you know, there are a lot of people who envision themselves moving abroad, maybe bopping around a little bit, doing some travel. But when you ask them, like, what's the roadblock? What's in the way? Um, Often it's family and familial responsibilities. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Before I forget, excuse me if you hear this lozenge. I have a cough drop because I have like a dry cough, and I figured y'all didn't want me coughing every other second. So there's that. So before we get into that conversation, in case there is somebody new here, let me welcome you to the channel, to the Picky Girl Nation. My name is Adelia Borshade. I am the picky girl behind this channel, as well as a financial educator and half of the team responsible for Reclaim the Retreat, which is a safe space for women and femmes to reclaim their peace, their happiness, their lives. Um, on my channel, we talk about all of those things. We talk about the work that I do, helping women like you live the life of their dreams. We talk about how to get your finances in a good situation so that you can live the life of your dreams. And we talk about the actual things that go into that, like planning travel and traveling solo. So if those are topics that are of interest to you, be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. That way, the next time I go live or I upload a video, you will be the first to know. So, I am curious, is there anybody here tonight on the live or possibly watching the replay that when you first considered doing some serious traveling or moving abroad, leaving your family behind was a concern? If so, let me know in the chat. Just say me. I am curious how many of you, because from the work that I do like one-on-one coaching as well, for folks who are planning a move or making a change. Um, I hear it a lot. So to me, it seems like it is a pretty important issue for some folks. Okay. So I see some of y'all in the chat. Me. Now, what I love is some of these people I see saying me are also people I know out here in these international streets. And we're able to find a solution that worked for them that didn't keep them from going out and pursuing this thing that they wanted. I love this. My grandbabies have passports and they come to see me all around the world. That's what I'm working toward. Number one, got her passport last summer and came and stayed with me here in Mexico City. Number two, who actually speaks Spanish. We were talking because she gave me the side eye when I started to talk to her in Spanish. Like, how do you know that? And I tried to explain to her that, like, I live in Mexico. Everybody speaks Spanish in Mexico. And she was like, "What?" And she was like, "Well, can I come to your house?" And I was like, "Yes, but you need a passport and you need to be older." So we're working on number two and eventually number three. So that is my goal to Eve, is to have them all have passports. Um, Krishan, we right there, girl. Uh, that is anybody who had something to say about, because there was a point in my journey where I was possibly moving abroad without my youngest. And I was like, she got a daddy. I'm not the only one who can be the responsible parent. And I think a lot of us could stand to remember that. Okay. So when we think about, like, what are those familial obligations that often might derail this plan to like switch things up in your life, you know, uh, adult children, uh, uh, aging parents, siblings. If you are from a particularly close knit family and y'all like spend time with each other, y'all like each other, and now you're talking about making this change in your life that is going to take you to another part of the world and you'll not be there for those events, that is uh, often concerning, often concerning. Um, and so, you know, I am team, you should go. You should go and live your life and be happy. But I also realize that it's not, everybody isn't at that place in their life where they can easily make that decision. And so that's why I wanted to have this conversation tonight, um, you know, to dig into, you know, why we hesitate, to make that move when we've got family that's not coming with us. Now, if you are hesitating to travel, to move abroad, and there's a chance that you can bring those people with you, I say the more the merrier. Why not? I've excuse me, y'all. On our Black Utopias channel, they recently, I cannot remember the lady's name. I know it'll come to me when I move on, but they interviewed a lady who wanted to move abroad and she brought her mom with her. And her mom needed assistance and care, and she was able to get that in the country that she lived in. So, if there is a chance, and I will stop and pause just to say, don't assume that folks won't want to come with you. It might be about you asking, you planting the seed that that's even a possibility for them as well. Just like a lot of us, it took us time to get to the point where we were comfortable with the idea of moving abroad or becoming a nomad and bopping around. This family member may not be there yet. And you giving that invitation, planting that seed might eliminate this whole problem for you altogether because they may want to come. But if you know that these are people who will not join you on this journey, how do you cope with that while you're, trying to live your best life out in these international streets? Excuse me. Um, a lot of people are the idea of what they will miss. Like, auntie won't be there for the birthday parties, for the weddings, for the first communions, all of that kind of stuff, the family reunions. That you'll miss seeing them every week. That's valid, particularly if your situation is one where everybody is very, very, very close. And that's kind of always been your normal. That's how y'all been living. And to switch that up, you know, that's you're gonna feel some kind of way about that. And that's okay. Um, so missing them, that is that's a valid reason to feel some kind of way. Um, some people I've heard feel like the family that they have in their home country, that they have back in the US, those are their people. They've built their community, they've built their circle, and now that they're gonna leave, they're gonna be alone. And a lot of people make the assumption that alone equals lonely, and it doesn't have to. So, fear of missing folks, fear of being lonely, or concern about caregiving. I saw several people in the chat mention elderly parents, parents who needed assistance and that sort of thing. Particularly, I know folks are hesitant to leave because, my mom's getting up in age. She is going to need care at some point. And so the default move, the easy move is, well, I'll just hang back until then. You don't know that she's going to need that care. Or you may actively be the person providing the care. And you're like, well, if I'm not there to do it, who's going to do it? Um, I love this SLS forever. My mom is coming with me in spite of having chronic health issues. You know, I do not, and this is not a comment to you, SLS forever. This is more of a general comment, much in the way, and I don't mean it to be flippant, but sometimes we have to reframe the way we think. And it's the same as when people ask about, like, where's a place I can go that's kid friendly? They got kids everywhere. Well, I'm concerned about education. They have schools everywhere. There are people with chronic illnesses everywhere. So I think it's great that your mom is coming with you, but I know a lot of people that might be a thing that might hold them back is because the assumption that healthcare in the United States is the best that there could possibly be, and being in this other country, my parents, my aunt, whomever is going to get inferior care. And I think that's pretty far from the truth most of the time. Most of the time. So, those are kind of like the main reasons why I feel like so many people are sometimes hesitant to make that jump, whether it's to moving abroad and starting a life somewhere else, or becoming nomadic, spending a lot, like traveling, often traveling full time. Um, so here's the thing. I said this before, and y'all know this. I'm going to tell you to go. Now, for the folks who are like, my mom is 139 and she is blind and she is mute and I am the only child, am I telling you that you got to pack up Mima and bring her with you? No. But I would ask you to think, well, first of all, here's what I would say. Do you want to be there because you want to be there or because you feel like you have to be there? Because a lot of us, and I'm talking particularly to the Black women, to the responsible daughters, because it's not always the oldest daughter, but the responsible daughter who is like, I have to. If I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. I want you to really be honest with yourself and ask yourself, This obligation, is it because you believe you have to be there? Like, could the care take place without you physically being there? And I would bet the answer is probably yes. Now, that's a different conversation. That's a different issue from I want to be there for my mom's 140th birthday. I want to be there when she takes her last breath. That's very different. If you want to be there for those final days, do that because that's something that you want. But doing that because you think you have to, that it's your responsibility, because I would ask, like, who made that your responsibility? Who showed up and told you you have to be the one to do this thing? And then I know there's some of y'all who are like, but if I don't do it, nobody else will. Do you know that to be true? Or is that the assumption you're making? And maybe you've been the person who has been providing that care and that support for the last 25 years. Just because you have been that person for the last 25 years doesn't mean you have to continue to be. So, if you want to let me ma age out to 152 at home and you want to be by her side, that is great. And if that is what you want to do, I am happy for you. But if you are doing it because you feel some kind of obligation, I would encourage you to really dig deep into why you feel that way. Okay. So, if you are in, and so again, I'm not talking to the people who are like, no, I want to be there for my mother's dying breath. If that's you, stay. I'm talking to the people who want to leave, but feel like they can't, or are hesitant to leave because these things might, are nagging at them, making them feel some kind of way. Um, so, like I already said, you need to examine all of these things. Is that you, or is that other people's responsible beliefs being projected on you? Are these some beliefs that you've developed, maybe misguidedly? Dig into that. Um, so you decide to leave. You want to go live this dream life out there. I would tell you, after you have made the decision that you're going, okay, all right. How is that going to work? First thing you need to do, I think, is to prepare the others. That if it's a parent, if it's adult children, if it's cousins, if it's whomever is in your family, whether it's family by birth or by choice, prepare those people. Talk about to them about where it is you're going, what this new version of your life might look like. If it's just that I will be traveling um, more, so I won't be around to like watch your cats for you and water your plants, because I think a lot of what holds us back is the idea of how our absence is going to impact other people. And so what you don't want to do is just deuces, I'm out. You want to prepare people so that they understand this part of your life is changing. That's going to impact them. You just giving them a heads up. That's all. That's all. Um, oh, y'all have a lot of good comments in here. Okay. So prepare them. That also means it might be time to delegate some responsibility, some of those things, some of those jobs you have always seen as, well, I'm supposed to do that. I'm the one that's supposed to do that. Um, Maybe we need to find somebody else. And so that might mean if you have other siblings, If there is another parent, um, you know, uh, talk about who can pitch in what, who can pitch in time, who can pitch in money, who's gonna do what. I think a big part of dealing with living somewhere else from where your family is communication. Because, like, the folks who feel like, "Well, I'm gonna miss them. I'm not going to see them." Um, I'll use myself as an example. My oldest granddaughter was born when I was away at grad school. And then excuse me, before she was 2, I moved to Honduras. Before I moved to Mexico, I came back for her 2nd birthday. So I've been on the go. My 2nd granddaughter was born while I was in China. Her 1st birthday was right when the world shut down and everybody went on lockdown. And then my 3rd grandchild, I was there when he was born and then didn't get to see him for a year later, and then didn't get to see him for another year. But you know what? For the most part, now the little one, that's a little different, but they know who I am because we make a point to connect video chat. Like we gotta use the technology that's available to us to our advantage. So I make a point of scheduling time to say, hey, I'm going to call. What time will the kids be awake enough for us to talk? Just so they can see me on the screen and associate, like, oh, that's Dee Dee, and then when I show up and they get off the bus, they know who I am. So it doesn't have to be kind of like the end of the world. I'm just throwing that out there in case some people are feeling that way. So, like I said, you want to prepare the others. You want to delegate some of the responsibilities that you feel like would fall by the wayside. I would also say preparing the others falls into particularly those of you who have adult children. I've seen a lot of guilt around, well, my child, because a lot of folks won't leave until their kids have graduated high school. Y'all know I left when my youngest was going to the 10th grade. She came with me for a year. She went back to Texas to live with her dad. But some folks have said, no, it's important to me. My kid has the traditional high school, US high school experience. I'm going to wait. But then I need to get them settled in college. Okay, but what happens when they go on break and they don't have a home to come back to? Okay, so, um, talking to them about what this new version of y'all's life is gonna look like, and that home isn't really a building, home is about where y'all are, and, making sure they've got a passport so that they can come visit you or meet you somewhere, you know? And then it's about creating a plan. One of the things that I decided. Can y'all hear me? I just noticed the volume is off. Can somebody let me know in the chat if you can hear me? Okay, thank you. Um, no, that's okay. Thank you. That's what we about here in the Picky Girl Nation. Defy convention, embrace adventure, and regret nothing. Um, so yeah. Okay. Um, Creating a plan. Like, how are you going to maintain your relationship with the people that you're not around? Thinking about, okay, and what are the life events that are super duper important to me that I absolutely can't miss? Will you be showing up for weddings? or will it just be funerals? Or only will it be funerals of people in your parents' generation? You know, thinking about what your standard is, because I know some people will feel like, oh, all of this stuff is happening with my family back home, and I feel like I've got to go back for every little thing, and that ain't cheap. You know, ain't nobody coming to see me, but I'm expected to go back. You get to decide when and how you go back. Um, I don't like spending time in the United States, and so this is something that I am struggling with. I enjoy spending time with my grandchildren and my children, but I don't enjoy spending time in the country where they are located, which is why I want everybody to have a passport so they can come here or we can go somewhere else to hang out. It is why I am now having to, now that the two oldest are in school, I need to I need to visit more because typically, I think these last few years, it's been like once a year. And so I've decided that I'm gonna make a visit like once a quarter. It's gonna be a day. I'm gonna give their mom the dates to make sure none of the other grandparents are like, oh no, we're going to this thing or what have you. No, no. I'm going to give her the dates, and these are the dates I will be in town. I will get the kids. We will go do something. We will hang out. Like I'm formulating a plan and putting that in place so that because for their entire lives, I will not have lived in the country that they live in. And so it is still important to me that we have a relationship, that we get to spend quality time together. So you have to think about, okay, so what's going to be a part of my plan? What are the things that I am willing to do, the events I am willing to go back for? Like, can you go back for everybody's high school graduation, or are you that's not going to be on your list? You get to make those decisions. And what you need to do is kind of create a plan. Like, how often do you think you want to be able to talk to people on the phone? If you're, I am not. I'm not somebody who wants to chat up people a lot. So phone calls, my cousin has chastised me about my lack of phone calling because I don't like talking on the phone. She knows that. But I showed up on one of my sporadic visits and there were lots of changes in her life. And she told me point blank, well, if you would call somebody, you would know. She was right. So think about that. For somebody like me, I have to make it a thing of like, okay, I will talk to these people once a week. I will talk to these people once a month, you know, getting together virtually. Are there people that you want to meet up with in different places around the world? My best friend, um, that that was our tradition even when we lived in the same country because we did not live in the same city. That tradition just has grown to like, okay, where are we meeting up in the world? And that is what we've done the last few years. Are you willing to let them spend summer break time with you in CDMX? Yes. The oldest, that's now our thing. Her first visit was last year. I have already informed everyone like this block on the schedule, like the first week in August, that is when she will either come here where I am, or like as she gets older, we may want to go somewhere else in the world. And the plan is to eventually add the other ones so that, excuse me, so that I have them all here with me for a chunk of time, or we're someplace else traveling. So, yes, that's kind of like I've decided our new family tradition. And that's another thing, traditions. A lot of us get caught up in, well, it's tradition for me to cook the meal, the big meal, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever your holiday is, and I have to do X, Y, and Z. Do you? Can we change that? Can we create new traditions? I think, yeah, we can. You can. I am a true believer in you can have it both ways. You get to live the life that you want, and you get to still connect and hold on to the community and the family that you had previously. It doesn't have to be either or, not at all. Okay. And so like Blacks at Global, uh, talking about her brother recently came to visit and now he wants to come there 3 months out of the year. I think a lot of us, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, a lot of us assume nobody wants to go with me on this journey or nobody would be interested, and we've not communicated to them that they would be welcome, that like, hey, I'd love it if you came with me, or you came to visit me, or what have you, and really talk about creating a plan and putting things in place to make that happen. Because it's all fine and good to talk about what you want to do, what you can't do because of this, that, and the other thing. But like, where's the plan to make it happen? Like, what are you doing to make this thing happen for you in your life? Whether it's a small thing, a big thing, there are steps you can be taking. So, one of the things I had to do was I have already put it in my financial planning that I will be paying for the grandkids' passports. Because if I'm waiting on their parents to get their stuff together, nobody will ever get a passport. Like I had to, for number one, to get her passport, I had to micromanage that entire process from afar. And at one point, I was like, do I need to fly into Houston so that I can take this child to go get her passport? I have a friend who has nieces and nephews. They don't have children, and they do not plan to live in the United States ever again, but they want to be a part of those children's lives. And that means spending time both here and then in the US. And that meant those kids needed passports. So what my friend did was they made a trip specifically to go back to, they were the one that took the kids to get their passports and paid for them so that that could happen. So, you know, you gotta, if you want it to be so, you want it to be true, you've got to like take some action toward it, start doing something. Um, yeah, FaceTime, WhatsApp, um, it's it's amazing. And, particularly with these little kids, like they learn how to use tablets and can figure out how to call people. And I'm really excited that we're starting to get to that point that I can cut out the middle person and connect directly with the little kids. Let's see, what else did y'all say in the chat? Okay. Okay. So Nubia Net says, I'm in contact with someone who took both her parents with her when she moved abroad. Her mom died shortly after they arrived. Her father quickly declined with Alzheimer's. She was able to find a nice place near her in Portugal. You know, I know it's very hard, particularly for those of us that are Gen X, because a lot of us are in the sandwich generation. You've got kids to take care of, and you've got some stuff you've got to do for your parents, maybe because you love them and they were wonderful people, or maybe because they didn't handle their business and now it's your responsibility. Um, the idea of trying to bring your parents with you, the idea of aging in the United States, it's so expensive. Um, I would really kind of sit down and have a come to Jesus moment and have some serious conversations where we're running numbers, because for a lot of people, from just a financial perspective, that might be the thing that wins them over to get them to see like, "Oh, this might be a good move for us." Okay, disabled diva, because your mom is not 92. I've been here 14 months providing care for mom. After April, the siblings better figure it out because I'm back in those streets. You know, I think we often get, not that this is Eve, because Eve she's on it. She gonna be back in the streets. But I know some of y'all are so hesitant to tell your other siblings. You've got a niece or a nephew that could probably pitch in, but you're very hesitant to vocalize that you need and you want that assistance. And I want you to ask yourself, why is that? Why is it that you would rather shoulder this responsibility and like have to forego something that could make you really happy versus like, hey, there's multiple of us. How can we pitch in? I have another friend who, there are three sisters, and she has been the one away. And the other sisters were like, you need to do more. And she was like, "Okay, I can provide more money." And they were like, "Well, no, you need to come back because you're not married. You don't have kids. So this is what you need to do." Mm, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Um, there is there is also, I think it's important to like, as you are navigating this, you're navigating the decision to leave and, delegate and help other people like step into their potential, their fullest potential, to step up in these situations. As you're doing that, there's probably going to be a lot of feelings that come along with it, maybe some guilt, maybe some shame, and I think it's important to honor those feelings and give yourself space to feel those feelings and work through them. Don't just like, oh, I feel bad about this and therefore I can't do it. Eileen says, I think I might need to be the passport fairy for my grandson since I've given my daughter the applications and she has every excuse of why it hasn't happened. Exactly. Exactly. Um, like I said, I was this close to being like, okay, next I'm gonna have to book a trip just to go do this. But I literally had to manage the entire process, um, from afar. But we got it done. She's got a passport, and at least for the next 5 years, she can come hang out with me. It is unfair, Rosalind, to expect someone who is single and no kids to automatically shoulder the elder responsibility. It is. It's unfair to expect the girl, whoever that is, whether she's the oldest, the youngest, the middle child. But I know someone that's the situation in their family. She's the girl. She's also the youngest. But the expectation is like, oh, well, when are you going to come back from that life so that you can handle mom? And it's like, what are y'all doing? Y'all are right there. Y'all could be helping. Um, it, and I think for a lot of us, because we've been dealing with these kinds of expectations from other people, some of us have internalized it and we often think like, oh, that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we got to do. Um, Yeah, I really do believe in making new traditions, just the way I don't believe in keeping those traditions that make you feel bad, that cost you too much money, like people, particularly around Christmas time, people are like, "Oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and all that." Do you have to? I think every time we use the phrase, "I've got to," do blah, blah, blah. We need to step back and really examine. Do we? What happens if we don't do this thing? Does the sun fall out of the sky? You know, like I said before, can it happen if you don't do it? I think a lot of times y'all gonna find out it can. It is. You are 100% right, Marissa. It's life changing when you realize you don't have to do what everyone else wants you to do. You don't. Exactly, Patty. Some traditions cost you your sanity year after year. So, okay, so you're abroad, you're living this life. And maybe sometimes you do feel a little lonely because you see everybody's Instagram stories and they're at Uncle Pookie's house for the kickback and the barbecue and you're not there. It's okay if you feel lonely, but do you have to just stop right there and just feel lonely and then progress to like, oh, never should have left? If you're feeling lonely, that's when you look around for your community that you've built in this new place that you are in this new life. Call up, text, WhatsApp some of the people who are in your life where you are. Connect with them. I think there's also the level of connect. You don't have to physically be in the same place with people to connect. So, yes, you're missing out on this fun family event, but can you connect with your community? Either the community that is there physically where you are, or with your girlfriends, your homies who are in various places around the world. Can y'all do a video group chat? And do something, I don't know, have like charcuterie night. Y'all know we used to do all of this stuff at the height of the pandemic. Have charcuterie night and everybody's on the Zoom or the FaceTime or whatever. So you can feel lonely, but you can also do something about that loneliness. Um, let's see. Feeling lonely, missing people. Communication is a big part of this. Not avoiding the feelings that you're feeling. Um, okay. I was looking in the chat. I felt extra pressure to take care of my mom, my aging mom, and put my slow travel plans on pause as I'm the only daughter. I have three brothers, and she tells them I'm the only one she can depend on. That's tough because mama's not helping. And it's like I'm I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but um, we would have to have a chat about I can't be the only person that mama can depend on. I can't be y'all. With somebody, we got to step up. Um, I will say this to you, GNIC09. I have said this to my best friend because there's some interesting family dynamic things happening in her life. And it's something that was said to me when I was having to make decisions when my mother had had a stroke. Um, because I know a lot of us kind of uh, lament about making the absolute right choice that's best for everybody, often not best for us, but making the absolute right choice. And whatever decision you make that is right for you, that's the right choice. So um yeah, so you do what you need to do for you. Jackie, I have the same concerns, but if I wait, I know I will regret it. And so we don't want to do things we absolutely know we're going to regret. And I think this comes back to communication. If if we don't have those talks with the family members, whether they be people older than us, whether they be people in our generation, whether they be the people younger than us. We have to say, hey, I can't be the only one doing all of the heavy lifting. Um, like we have to have those hard conversations. And I think a lot of not having those hard conversations often puts women at a disadvantage, and they end up being placed in these roles that they don't want to be, they don't want them any longer, and they can't get out of. As a mom, I would feel awful if my child has to put their life on hold for me. Now, I'm glad you said this because this is something else I hear. I hear the reverse of it. I hear the child who is like, I can't take this trip. I can't make this move because I got to be there for my mama. I got to be there for my daddy. I got to be there for my auntie. And not having the conversation with that person, never knowing that auntie, that mother, that father is thinking, girl, no, don't put your life on hold for me. Like I have lived my life. You need to go out there and live yours. So often we don't know that there are those people in our lives who are like, absolutely not. Don't put your life on hold for me because we're making assumptions. Again, not communicating. My son already told me he's going to pay a nice lady in Mexico to care for me in my old age. He's putting money aside. This is what I'm saying, making the plan, having a plan, creating a strategy. He's going to fight. Y'all, I know a lot of people. One of the things I talk about, one of the things Rashida Dow talks about a lot is knowing your numbers and doing the math. A lot of people talk about the cost of care. And they're like, well, I know a nursing home is expensive, but do you know how expensive it is? Because I didn't until I had to put my mother in one. And let me tell you, if Adelia had to foot the bill, I, I don't know where she would have been, but she wouldn't have been at that nursing home because the cost of the nursing home exceeded my salary. So I've looked into what like senior care costs here in Mexico because it's becoming more of an industry as more foreigners are here. Because traditionally, with Mexican households, someone in the household is, they live generationally, and so people tend to age out at home. Although when I was in Oaxaca in January, on the same property, the house that I was staying in for my artist residency, there was a old folks home on that property. And I asked about it, and it was Mexican owned, and the occupants were Mexican, and she was like, yeah, that's very unusual. But I've looked into what it costs here, a fraction, and I'm talking about not just like senior living kind of place. I'm talking about a place for um what is it called? Like dementia care, where they, are monitoring the people 24 hours a day, so on and so forth. There are English speaking physicians. I'm talking about like $2,000 a month. Eh, So it's going to be very affordable for him, Eve, here in Mexico. Okay. Yeah, this sounds about right. 9,000 a month in the suburbs. That sounds about right. And so, because I guess this is something I had to contend with when my mother had a stroke and had to go into care, it was either I have to quit my job and take care of her full time, also while I had 3 children at home, or, figure out how to get her medicated. Like, I just remember thinking, "How do people do this?" Um, the cost is insane. Absolutely. You could hire somebody, particularly if whether we're talking about like aging alone, which some of us will do here, or bringing someone with you that eventually will need assistance. You can hire somebody to come uh, for so much less than it would cost in the United States. So much less. It's it's very mind-blowing. Like I said, the cost of my mother's nursing home was more money than I was getting paid from my job, and I was just like, "How?" Because I feel like we talk about like, "Oh, one day I'll put my mom in the home and I'll," but we never really look at what the numbers are, how much it's actually going to cost, and it's ridiculous, it's ridiculous. So our whole point of this conversation tonight is to talk about how to how to cope when your family is somewhere else and you are somewhere else, and that's kind of how your life is going to be. We've talked about, you know having a plan, having a strategy, maintaining those connections with the family that you want to be connected to. You are absolutely not obligated to maintain relationships with folks you don't want to. Absolutely not. But using technology to our advantage, being strategic and stepping in with the funds, and sometimes orchestrating things when it's talking about getting people passports so that they can come visit you, or being strategic and having a plan about when you return back to your home country. What kinds of family events will you go for? Which ones will you not go for? And being okay with those decisions, because you're making those the best decisions possible for yourself. You may decide, I can't go to all of my nieces and nephews' weddings, and you don't have to feel guilty about that, because that's the best decision for you. You may choose to nurture y'all's relationship in some other way, and that is perfectly okay. But if you feel sad, you feel lonely because you're not there on that particular day, having those feelings are okay. I a friend said the other day about like so much of what messes us up as adults is not wanting to feel our emotions and not wanting to deal with what that feels like when we have these big emotions. And it's okay. And it's okay. I think, excuse me, I think I'm going to go because my cough seems to want to come back. Um, Thank y'all for coming to hang out with me tonight. If you are watching this on the replay, thank you for watching. Um, Excuse me. There was something else I wanted to tell y'all, but I can't remember what it is. So, I was on an episode of Black Expat Stories. I put a link to the video on the community page. I think it's a really good conversation. So if you're interested, particularly if you're new here and you like don't know a lot about how I ended up here in Mexico and how I ended up living this life, you might find that interview particularly interesting. Okay, I will see y'all next time.